Hello, my name is Bradley and I'm your host of The Internal Game. Okay, so let's think about SP for a second, right? A quick little second here. And I want to ask you guys a question. If you had the choice, to view SP as loving, committed, choosing you over anyone, um, affectionate, caring, warm, all the great qualities, right? If you had a choice to choose between that and how you have been probably seeing them, right, as separate, as maybe even deceitful, a liar, a meanie, right, big old jerk, right, whatever the case may be. If you had the choice to choose between the loving kind and the not so loving kind, which one would you choose? Which one? I would assume that you would choose the loving kind, right? Okay, so if that's the case, then why are you not doing that? It's because what is actually happening unconsciously is we are seeing SP as us, right? Now, I'm not saying that you are these things that you're seeing them as, but I am saying that you are looking for confirmation of how you see self and how you believe things to be for yourself. So if you feel abandoned, if you feel not enough, if you feel second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth best, if you feel unworthy, not heard, not seen, things like that, you're going to perceive this person as doing those things to you. That's why if you're a person who actually had the SP in the first place, that's why you started to view them that way. And then it got pushed out, and then we stayed in the story. And now we're like, I want them back. If I get them back, I'll finally be whole and complete. When really we had them before, and we were still not whole and complete, and we were perceiving them as doing these things to us and looking for creating meaning off of what they did or didn't do in alignment with how we see self. So you're not viewing them, you're seeing you through them. Right? One of the coolest things I ever heard was Eckhart's wife, right? I won't even say Eckhart. His wife, they asked her, what is your favorite thing about Eckhart? And she said, the reflection I get. I love seeing myself through him. Right? So if we have these kind of unconscious beliefs that are not worthy, not enough, not seen, heard, abandoned, things like that, we are going to perceive said person through this lens. That's why when you hear stuff, it's like, yeah, view them differently. View them differently, bro. View them differently, dude and dudette. Like, just change the way you see them. They'll change. Yeah, that's true. But why are you not? Why is it so challenging to make a story about how perfect and wonderful this person is, and then to go jump on another story that seems really, really real about how they're not wonderful and how they're this and how they're that, and man, they're mean, they're jerks, and they're selfish, they don't care about anyone but themselves, and all this good stuff, or not so ideal stuff, right? So that's all that's really happening. And just like anything, we want to bring some awareness to this unconsciousness in the moment, right? What that looks like is when you start to perceive this person as separate from you, which that's what we're doing anytime we're saying that they're this and they're that, and they're wrong, and they're mean, they don't care about anybody but themselves, and we label them as bad, right? And when we start these stories, we say, whoa, 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 whoa. I'm perceiving this person as separate from me. I'm being a victim here too. Am I creator or am I victim? I was just making a video about that on the membership side. It's something I talk about in the Skool Community too a lot, but like, is it, or just have talked about, but am I victim or creator? Because if I'm victim and I perceive myself as a victim, then yeah, this makes sense. They're just doing these things to me. They're this way, they're that way. They don't care about anybody but themselves. They don't see me, they don't hear me, they don't validate me, and they're not going to. How can I see them differently when this is what they do? Or my creator? And I say, whoa, I think I've been fooled a little bit by my mind that's telling me that I want something different than what my unconscious wants. Because if you view yourself as abandoned, or not enough, or not worthy, or not committed to, things like that, then what identity actually wants is that. It's not good, it's not bad, it just is. It's just the truth of this mind-made self that you've said, this is who I am, this is what happens, this is how I see myself. This is how my life plays out. People abandon me, they don't see me, I'm not enough, all these things. But that's what it actually wants. And I know that sounds crazy because our mind is saying, no, I would never want that. But that's what the unconscious part of you that you say that you are, that you've identified with, actually does want that. And it's not good, it's not bad, it just is. So every time anyone, for that matter, that you start to get along with and like and really be into, and then the attachment sets in, this little thing comes out to play, and it doesn't want the experience that it may be getting. So if this person's loving, this person is accepting, telling you they love you and are committed to you, showing up for you, got all these different things that are so wonderful, and that what you're saying you're wanting right now, that when this started happening, all it took was one time that it didn't happen, or one time that it did, and it started to perceive it as not that. Like, let's just say someone texted you every day, all day, and then the one day they didn't. Like, that's when it comes in and says, oh, well, they're not texting. Is there something up, something wrong? Is it me? And we start to perceive these people as how we actually see self. And then, eventually, we create it. And even in that time, you mentioned it to this person. Hey, listen, I'm feeling a little this. And like, what? No, I love you. You're the best, dude. Or dudette. Best girl. You're the best girl, right? Whatever. And then it's just not believable. I'm just like, I'm just not feeling it. I need more from this person. Why are they not doing this like they used to do it? I need them to do more things so they can prove that they love me, when really what we're doing is unconsciously sabotaging what they were doing in the first place and looking for proof of how we see self, and we're going to perceive this person as ourself. They're not chosen, they're not committed to, not enough. And then eventually it's going to get pushed out. And then we stay in these stories. And even after the physical expression is pushed out, or even after the physical is like, it's separate. You and this person are separated physically, right? Physically, like body, I guess. And then we stay in these stories. And we add to them. It's been this amount of time now. It's done this, right? And I was talking to somebody, and it just keeps that experience going. So I was talking to somebody yesterday, someone I'd worked with a few months back, and it was really cool. I did ask her if I could share this because you don't know who she is, but she said that she saw this guy, her SP, hadn't saw him in a while, and like they gave each other a hug, or no, he didn't give her a hug, and there was like a reason behind it or whatever, but she went home basically and like kind of pondered on why that didn't happen. And she was texting back and forth, and then she ends up showing the message to somebody at work and was like, does this look like this guy loves me? Of course the person at work was like, no, not at all. Like, get rid of him. He's not into you, whatever, right? And she goes to send this guy a long message about how, like, just tell me that you don't love me. I don't, just break it to me. I don't want to keep living like this. I'd rather just know now that you don't love me. And she said, I was halfway through the text and I was like, I want to be rejected right now. Like, I'm fishing for rejection. Like, this guy said none of these things. And I perceived the whole thing as me being rejected. And like I told her, I was like, what you're doing is you're literally doing it for him. You're like, no, just tell me I'm not enough. Tell me that you don't love me. Like, just tell, like, wanting this person to say that, because that's what actually feeds, and that's what actually confirms the actual belief about self. That's it. It might be, think about it, like maybe the person at work that you've had some issues with and you find out about, just view them differently. Very easy to do. Or if you have found it easier, probably. Okay, yeah, Sam at work was always standing by the fax machine and I could never get my papers or whatever, and I thought he was a jerk and doing it on purpose, but like now I found out about law of assumption, everyone is so pushed out. So I started seeing him as not doing that, and then he stopped doing that. It was so easy. Yeah, because this person doesn't reflect back that you're not lovable and not committed to and not chosen, right? It's more simple. But the actual identity, which is a body of beliefs that we have about ourselves, you probably consider them good, bad, whatever, but nonetheless, just belief in general about self. And then if some of these are, I'm not chosen, I'm not worthy, I'm not enough, I'm not these things, then you're going to perceive these romantic people, like the people that you are involved romantically with, like this eventually. Probably not when you first meet them, but once attachment sets in, for sure. So it's like that movie that was like First Step in, I forgot what it was, but it was a dude from Dumb and Dumber. And he said, he was like a politician. He said, first step of solving a problem is recognizing that there is one. Now, I'm not all for focusing on problems. I'm not all for like saying that you have one. But I am all for like bringing some awareness to something that's actually going on. You know, I was in Alcoholics Anonymous for a long time back in the day. And the very first step is to admit that you're an alcoholic. Yeah, nobody tells you that. Nobody, and it's like it's pretty rooted in there. Like, you don't just go tell somebody that they're an alcoholic. They have to come to that conclusion all on their own. Because if not, then I mean, what good is anybody going to do? Like, right? But after you can say, "Hey, I'm an alcoholic." Now, I'm not saying that you should go make identities out of certain things, but I am saying that like it's a good first step in the sense of like just acknowledging that something's going on. I keep drinking. I keep ruining my life. I keep finding myself in jail or when I'm drinking. I keep doing these things, and like I can't stop it. So like I tell myself I'm gonna stop it, but I keep finding myself in these situations. So I must be this thing. And then after like kind of that admission is that, okay, this is what I'm doing. You have to say that you are this, but I'm saying this is what I'm doing. Then you can actually then you can actually do something about it. But until then, we don't know what's going on. It's just so unconscious, and we just keep getting pulled back to the same story, viewing this person as this villain, this monster. I remember my wife telling me, "I can't stand the way you see me," and she was right. She looked at me like, "Why do you even want to be with me? You see me as like," and I had no idea that all I was doing was just perceiving her for confirmation of how I saw myself. And I needed her to do those things so this little me, this abandoned one, this not enough one, could actually survive. Because there was many times that she was loving and committed and affectionate and all these things, and I just was like, oh, something's wrong. Looking for proof of how I saw myself. So once you kind of understand this and say, okay, listen, there must be something going on, because why the fuck is this so hard? Why do I keep going back? And once you're like kind of aware of this, you can say, okay, now I can do something about this. Just like the lady that I spoke with yesterday, she said, wow, like it started to make sense. Do I want to be broke? Like, do I see myself as broke? Do I want to be these things? She's like, because I find myself in these problems, and it's like, yeah, this is a thing. Once we have identified with something, that's all the unconscious wants, because that's how the self, that particular self, stays alive. It's just a version. It's not who you are. It's just a version that's been identified with. Now, granted, if you were to get into another version, you would have a different experience, for sure. This is a law. This is the simple way of the thing. But why is it so hard? Is because we keep just trying to go into aversion without actually realizing what's happening underneath. Is that like this particular thing that I say I don't want doesn't want change. But it sounds insane, right? It sounds like, why would I ever want that? But that's all that's happening. So you have to start bringing awareness to these stories, because the stories are coming from belief, the experience. That's why you have loads and mounds of evidence that this identity has about why this new way isn't the way, why this person is never going to change, because they've done all these things. And if we keep buying these stories, they stay. We stay. So you have to recognize the story in the moment and perceive yourself, and check and like, yeah, witness the story, perceiving this person, and say, man, like this is coming from how I see myself. Like the perception that you have is going to tell you more about you than the actual experience. Like the perspective isn't universal. The perspective that you have on this person, the perception you have of a circumstance or person, isn't universal. It's definitely customized to how you believe yourself to be. It's very specific to you. So it doesn't tell you anything about the circumstance. It tells you about you, because you can only perceive through the lens of belief. So if you're perceiving somebody as being a certain way, being cold, distant, I don't care what they're showing you. Like if you continue to perceive this, then all that's happening is we are strengthening a victimized, very small, abandoned, not enough. Let's just use not enough self, not chosen self. That's it. What other good comes from it? Like if you believe in the law and you believe that like that all I got to do is change how I view this person, why is it not happening? What good is coming from still perceiving the situation? What is coming from the situation, though, is all like what is coming from you perceiving this person this way and the circumstance this way is that the victimized self stays alive. The little me stays in control. And if we don't bring some conscious awareness to the stories while they're happening, the perspective while it's happening, and cut its life source, which is your belief in it, your attention to it, your constant like trying to find meaning in it. The mind is a meaning-making machine. Get out of it, because you're going to be making the meaning based on belief system. Instead of the person not texting back because they're just in a meeting, now they're not texting back because they don't want to talk to you anymore because I'm not enough. And maybe they found somebody else because I get abandoned. That's how the meaning gets made, is because of how we see self. Okay, so bring awareness to the story. The other day there was a comment about like the solution or something like that. It starts at like minute 16 or something. And it's kind of funny because I talk a lot in the beginning about like what's actually happening, because it's very important that you know what's going on. Okay, the answer is always going to be to return to presence and get out of mind. Break your attention to these belief systems. Break your connection to the system, the unconscious programming. And you do want to be highly aware of what is actually happening. What is actually happening is there's a self that doesn't want change. There's a version of you that you've identified with that doesn't want change. And all it wants is how it sees itself. And the conscious mind at the same time is saying, but I do want happiness. But if you've identified as an unhappy person, you will sabotage any happy experience, because what it actually wants is unhappiness, because that's how it sees itself. If you are an abandoned person, the conscious mind is going to say, no, I want someone to stay with me. But what's going to happen is when someone starts to stay with you, you'll abandon it, because that's how it sees itself. If you're a person that is identified as not enough, then when someone starts showing you and treating you like you are enough, like you're more than enough, you're going to unconsciously sabotage it through perception that this person doesn't think you're enough, and all sorts of things, because this particular belief doesn't want change. It actually wants to maintain not being enough. And that does sound insane, because it kind of is, okay? And kind of like my man's Eckhart taught me, no one is consciously insane. If you have the choice to be sane or insane, which one would you choose? Sane, of course. So why does one keep being over this way? Because they don't have as much choice as they think they do, because they're unconscious and that program is running the show. So if you have the choice to view this person as loving, kind, committed, caring, affectionate, would go to the ends of the earth for you, then why don't you choose that? It's because we keep falling to unconscious pattern that created the whole thing in the first place. So you start there. This has nothing to do with these people. Nothing. Your whole perception of them is all in alignment with how you see self. That's why Neville said there's no one to change but self. When you stop believing that you're not enough, when you stop believing that you're not worthy, when you stop believing that you're not chosen and committed to, then you are naturally these things, and most importantly, you're not going to be perceiving the same things that you perceived when you felt this way about you, when you thought these things about you. You're no longer going to be looking for these things through somebody else. You'll no longer be looking for confirmation of you. You'll no longer be looking for confirmation of how you see yourself through another person, because you don't see the other person, you see you. And if you are no longer being this certain you, you're not going to see this person that way. And guess what? They have to switch. They have to start reflecting you like they always have done. So bring awareness to these stories. Choose. Because once you bring awareness, you have choice now. Once you catch yourself in the story of separation, this person is mean, this person's this, they're doing this, they're hurting me, you ask yourself, am I victim or creator? Because if I'm victim, then what am I doing here? Why am I even trying to manifest this? Because the world is just attacking me. But if I'm creator, then I need to bring some awareness to what's actually happening. And there's a little me that doesn't want what it says it wants. And I'm going to step in now, because I am done being this way. And I'm going to stop giving my attention and belief to the system. I'm going to make it irrelevant. That's just a thought. Yeah, that's a perspective. And make it light. Because you're creator. And you've had enough. And you know what's going on. And as long as you know what's going on, you have choice. Because if not, you're going to keep falling back into these stories, and you're keep seeing this person the same way, because you keep seeing yourself the same way, because you keep buying into the stories. Okay? That's all I got. Love you guys. See you soon.